All right, good people, we're back again for another The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live recap show here at Big O Belt Media, where Zero and I are jumping into episode 3. This episode is titled Bye. Well, I am going to say that on my bingo card, did not expect anybody to not only crash in helicopter, but also decide to jump out of one within the first 3 episodes here. And certainly Rick and Michonne are here to do the unthinkable each and every week. But yeah, I'll start off right with you. I was really digging this episode again because I think with the first episode being about Rick, the second episode being about Michonne, this one is that reunion and a glimpse of what the two of them can do together that no one is here to dispute. Everybody knows them two together is a problem, without a doubt. Even to the point that we see some possibilities of planning ship and companionship in the future, that even in means of trying to separate, that their bond would no longer allow that to be a thing. Listen, Michonne's like, forget all that Scooby-Doo shit. Like, it ain't no split up plans here. we together, it ain't gonna be you do this, I do that. We together on this. But overall, let's start off with you. What was just your thoughts about this episode? And whether you want to dabble into one of your favorite moments about it.
What I love about this episode is this weird couple power dynamic thing that we see going on. That really just tells me that like nothing has changed with the relationship between the two of them, because they know very well. Like Rick had his moment, Michonne had her moment of, the remembrance of, oh yeah, like we're Rick and Michonne, there's not much that we really need to be worried about. We gonna make something happen. They both have those moments. And I think that Rick and Michonne as just characters are so similar. And it's surprising that they're written that way, obviously, but it's surprising that they could work so well as a couple, because they're kind of two sides of the same coin. When they make up their mind on something, they have made up their mind on something. And even if that means I have to trick you into doing it, I have to finesse you, for the greater good or whatever, or jumping out of planes, like we saw at the end. It's they both are very firm in their lane of my way or the highway. I mean, it's all like towards a common goal, but it's still my way or the highway. So I wasn't, expecting that I was going to get that type of conflict, because going into the spinoff, I'm like, okay, it's a love story. They're going to get together. They're going to escape. That's it. I never thought that they would have to be sabotaging each other's plans in order to come to the same common denominator. But again, the two hardheads, they want what they want, and they want to do it the way that they want to do it.
Yeah. Having met Denai on numerous occasions, I think she's a fantastic actor. I will always echo that as loud as I can to the furthest parts of the back of the room. I have to say that I'm glad that I've met her and sort of have an understanding of who she is as a person. Because one thing about Denai is, in her characters, she's going to give you some side eye. And
I love it.
I start to think like, that's kind of how she is, but it's not. It's not her. But I do think she takes certain mannerisms and certain sort of just gestures and so on with their characters. I mean, the side eye thing, infamously in all she does in the Okoye and Black Panther. So seeing her give Rick the side eye multiple times in this episode was kind of like, did she go? And I think that's a testament to not only with her wearing a hat as one of the producers and producers or creators of this, shall I say, so wearing multiple hats in terms of behind the camera, but in front of the camera, I think it's somebody that you can give a script to, and they're going to provide everything that you've put in there, but also give you a little bit more to really add to it. And I thought it was really telling about the relationship that Michonne's side eye was kind of like, come on, Rick, you know me better. You know me better. And I'm gonna talk about that scene with her and Thorne later. But so many times did she give Rick that look like, I
She
know it's been
sure
a while.
did.
It's been like 7 years, but
I know you mustn't have forgotten. Come on.
but yeah, starting off beginning of the episodes, of course, we have to go back in history a little bit. So this time we just go back some years ago. And if I had to like really equate years ago, I think you kind of go back about 6 to maybe 5 years ago, because this is at least when Rick had his boots. So this was before his escape attempt that we saw when he ended up on the coast and they found him where he, was barefooted there. So this is at least where he had his boots. He was a consignee, still looking at the windmills and obviously walking through Millennial Park. And where he meets Jadis, where Jadis has a normal haircut. Not that I have anything against her haircut now, but in Rick's,
that line was so crazy. That was wild. Also not on my bingo card.
Yeah. I probably got to tip a nod to Andy on that one. Probably wanted to add a little bit extra in there. But this is where life was a little bit normal. I'm not gonna say normal. It was uncomfortable for him, but as normal as sort of just a regular day. He's going through the park. Obviously this is where he finds the artist, where he gets his drawings on the whatever mobile devices is available. And folks, yeah, mobile devices aren't working because satellites and all that are not happening. So just so you know, while phones are being used as these things and whatnot and whatever. But Jadis, since day one, has been throwing it at my man. This is what I want to talk about this episode. Jadis has had the hots for Rick this entire time. And we know that, Jadis is taking full responsibility for why Rick is there. The agreement they had, Rick is clearly an A. She knew Rick was an A. Instead of Rick being an A leading, then ended up being experimented on, she brought him in as a B, but then he ended up being exposed as an A, and they ended up giving him sort of, parting, should we almost say, him and Thorne in two different trajectories, but ultimately leading down the same path. But it's all about Jadis being the one that advocated for him, ensuring that, this should secure his safety in being here. So as she says, I've saved your life. But it was pretty early that Jadis understood that she wanted to be in CRM. She's preaching the gospel. She is sipping the juice and so on. So then we go hours before the current time where we see Rick. Now this is the Rick we know, because it looks like Rick and Michonne had departed each other and Rick was going back to the room to call it a night and Jadis was sitting there. But before he did that, and this is where he got that idea for, this is what the correlation between the two things is, that Jadis explained it to him why he's safe. He took that same mentality and says, I need to make sure that somebody else vouches for Dana, aka Michonne, so that she's safe. So he makes a pit stop at Thorne's place and says, here's everything you need to know about everything. Please vouch for her. I believe in her, da 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 da. And I can't wait to hear your thoughts about this, because Thorne is kind of like, are you here, Rick? He's like, listen, we're doing this for Okafor. Okafor, he's gone, but he's still here with us. You know what I mean? And I understand now, which he did say to Okafor as well too. I want to know your assessment right now. Rick laid out a game plan. We know Jadis had comments about it later on in the episode, but he was very strategical in terms of what he needed to accomplish here to protect Michonne, to make sure that her being sort of onboarded was placed in as a B because of the fate of what happens to an A. So what is your thoughts? Is he still, and to go back to your thoughts last week too, is he still not to be trusted, or is this the Rick that we know that always has a plan?
I don't know. Okay, so at this point in the episode, I want to stay with him. I want to say, okay, he has clearly thought this thing out, especially with the background information that we get from the flashback. I'm like, okay, this is a cold, calculated plan. It worked the first time. Let's just repeat the formula. Now we have Thorne on the inside. She's getting promoted. She could be that person to help protect Dana. And then I changed my mind again, back to how I felt originally later in the episode. But we will get there. But at this point, my thoughts were reversed, just because I'm thinking about the, probably how long he took to think about this, and really understanding how long I've been here. What's the situation like? We need to address this really particularly, because I'm lucky, and I think he does understand how lucky that he is in this circumstance. But now he has that background information, and he's like, "Hey, I can use this to my advantage." So at the moment, I'm with him. But there was one other moment later in the episode that we will get to where I said, actually, you know what? Maybe I really don't trust him 100%. Maybe like somewhere in like an 80% trust.
Okay.
Which, like, you know, in this type of world, I don't know. 80 is not good enough.
Yeah. The tug of war is great. But it's good that he's convincing in terms of,
because he has to be. He has to be because everyone is watching him. Also, definitely doesn't have anything to do with the writing, or it just has to do with this universe. But this seems like pretty advanced, and I don't like how liberally, you know, they're supposed to be low, and it seems like to me that everyone is being like super hot boy about this. Jadis, Michonne, and Rick sneaking off to the sides to talk. Thorne coming to Rick's room to talk about, you know, the things that they know that they probably shouldn't be sharing with each other. I'm like, okay, if this is the most, you know, locked down facility, this city really, like, the only thing that they care about is their security and their power and their hierarchy. There's no cameras in there. There's no microphones in those rooms, especially we already know that he's not to be trusted. I don't know. I wouldn't even, like, Michonne's side eye. I'm like, well, you giving up. Don't even lose side eye. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, I thought about surveillance. I definitely thought about surveillance and stuff like that for a while, but yeah, they have not dabbled into that, and I think that just brings like a unprecedented source of just possibilities going forward. If that's like a thing, like now we're bringing in an extra form of security, and that's their whole MO, which makes sense that they would, but the fact that they're done is kind of like, huh. But, you know, that's why they preach the gospel in a way of either you're in or you're not. You know, this is go to like radical extremist religion here. It's like you're either sipping the CR juice or you're not, and we're offing you, you know?
At a certain point, they don't need much surveillance on the inside because it's really like cult mentality, like groupthink, you know?
Yep, exactly. So then going forward, again, Jadis, you know, talking about having to ride for Rick and lie for Rick in order to make him a B to protect him from being a test subject if he was an A. And Jadis reminds me of that bully back in elementary school or middle school that always picked on you, and years later you find out that she actually really liked you because she out here just, you want to kill me now, don't you? Just all this brutal dirty sarcasm, but just kicking below the belt every single time she gets. And she says, listen, you two will be the first if you ever leave. And if somehow, some way that happened, that all falls on me. And that's the one thing we need to remember is that, folks, when you are vouching for folks, they automatically become part of your profile. So Jay's just like, I got you in, so whatever you do falls on me. Same thing with Michonne. Now it seems to be on Thorne's list. So everybody's like, you mess up, it's a problem for me. I don't want that type of beef. I only wish that they had displayed that with somebody else beforehand, because it's sort of like reading between the lines and understanding that, because you think if somebody's being brought in, that would be the issue of the superiors. Like they would handle it. You know what I mean? Like, let's just say, like, if you committed a crime or something, it's like, all right, well, we're arresting your parents. It's like, no, I'm in trouble, so wouldn't I go to the authorities? But it seems like with the CR, it's more like, if somebody commits something because you vouch for them, you're in trouble, which means that everyone tries to keep their hands as clean as possible with who they sort of put their name out there for and whatnot. So Jay, this makes it very clear, if you two are to leave, you know, that arrangement, the arrangement we have is somehow discovered. Listen, I put together a contingency file that would tell them everything about you all, as well as Alexandria, and everybody would die. So if you try, this is what's going to happen. Everyone dies, because we're all about security here. And I get it that your ultimate goal is to have a life together, but why not have it here? Um, and what's interesting about that is Jadis is not factoring in the kids. She knows about them, but she's not factoring it in. I think Jadis is looking through a very narrow scope of like, y'all love each other, and that's the reason why you're trying to do all of this, which is definitely a strong part of it. But the kids is the ultimate motivation. I also think that they want to get back to just being in their own environment and with their folks, which as the fans, we want that. But Jadis, I think, is looking through a very almost like one of the horse blinders, where she's just looking straight ahead and thinking this is all about love. Meanwhile, maybe because she's I don't know,
dead inside.
Yeah, that's true. Dead inside. She wants some Rick. She wants some Rick.
She
it is
do.
without a doubt.
She
it's
is
without
a
a
little
doubt.
thirsty.
But with that, let me make sure there's anything else to add to that. I mean, she makes it very clear, like, you know, and then she puts together that she understands that Michonne, there were suspicions that they thought she was an A, but Thorne stepped up to vouch, which cleared the way for her being a B, so she's good. So Rick's planned, and then you know, Jay's like, wait, you did all that? It's like, makes sense, you know. So I think, you know, that's the Rick we know the Rick to be. Rick knowing how to navigate, knowing how to make a plan. And while last week's episode looked like he just came straight to his room, but he made the necessary stop, that changed everything. Because just that close, she had to been a goner, you know. But this moving forward, Michonne on the walkie-talkie letting Judith know she found him, but she wanted to know how this sort of community institution, whatever you want to call it, how could somebody like them stop him over and over? This is the man that, you know, we know no one can stop, but how could they? So she's inquiring minds wonder here. You're like, I gotta get to the bottom of this. I gotta figure out what's going on in here. But she did say, like, why they stopped him, they can't stop us. And you know what's interesting?
I love that moment.
I almost wonder if there was ever a point where they wanted to make the title of the show play to that to some extent. Like, they can't stop. I love the ones who live for sure, but I'm waiting to see how it implies to the title. But I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to work around something about they can't stop us, or the ones that can't be stopped, or something of that sort, because that's the theme, is that apart they're good, together they're unstoppable. So there's that. So let's talk about this, because this is a good talking point here. So we see Dana working the consignment thing with the spear and at the wall, and Cleo there just minding her business, but her observations are right. He's just saying, like, you don't look like somebody, you know, who just can't defend himself, and I forget whatever choice word she used. But Cleo clearly isn't built for this life. But yeah, like she said, Michonne radiates like shit knowing, like she knows her shit. And I think my assessment here, and you tell me what you think, that Michonne is truly going to suffer from trying to blend in. She cannot resist of looking, identifying, smelling, reeking of A quality. What's just your thoughts about Michonne and her inability to ploy as a B? Is this on purpose, or is this just you just can't hide who you are? What's just your thoughts here?
I don't think it's on purpose, because at this point, like, they still have a plan. You know, they still are going to go with their original plan that they discussed when Michonne saved Rick out in the woods after the helicopter crash. Again, I'm like, okay, how to be Hot Boy 101. You're supposed to be a B. You're supposed to be a follower. And now she's out here, like, on the outer ring, like, doing these crazy moves on walkers. Like, where the hell you learned that at, B? I think I'm torn between, you know, her just not being able to help it, because, you know, at this point, it's probably just muscle memory and second nature for her.
True.
Especially with having, you know, being so comfortable with a long weapon in your hands. It's just like, whatever, I'm gonna just do the job. And also, I do think that she got a little boost from that scene immediately before, when she, you know, remembers who the hell we are and what we can do when we're together, talking to Judith, giving Judith the message before, and kind of thinking, you know, and also having this talk with this other woman that, you know, you look like somebody who like knows their stuff. Then she remembers, well, you know, me and my husband, we are the people that know the stuff. And there she goes again, how to be hot boy 101. So this will really not end well for her if she keeps acting in this way, but I don't think that she knows that yet, because I don't think that at this point she really knows the intricacies of how this small army dictatorship is really working, and also that Jadis is in the picture at all. Yeah, relax, please. Please relax.
Another shout out to Denai and just her weapons training. I mean, you put a staff, you put a spear, you put a sword, you put whatever this little cranky blender thing at the end of it of a pole, whatever it is, she's gonna body it. And I think her form, I gotta be honest, man, seeing her form and everything, I'm like, hot damn. So I love that the viewers, we get that, we see her throw the head to protect Cleo, who, to me, I'm like, is she working as like some informant? Because she definitely was just like, all right, I guess I'll just let this happen.
That move was crazy too.
At all.
The flicking of the head into the other head. Could a bee do that?
and honestly, the real bee over there is just kind of just like, oh boy, I fail. I'm done.
Yep.
It's like, dang, that's all it took.
I'm down.
Yeah, I'm that literally like every video game, like every battle royale game, when you get shot and you're down, you just drag, you gotta wait for somebody to pick you up. He's just like, just stand up, person, stand up. I think it's funny too, we get to see Rick too looking at this girl like, yeah, that's my baby right there, but I gotta keep this straight face because nobody gotta know. So yeah, so we get the Okafor funeral, and we hear a lot about Okafor. We hear the story once again about what he did with his wife, Bill, and how much this sword means to him. So first off, as soon as he showed that I said spear, the sword. When Bill showed this sword and how much it meant to him, he was giving the history about it. So this guy has this useless historical knowledge, and obviously as a general, you know, he knows a thing or two. The sword is not an Easter egg, because I definitely quickly looked it up. I was like, this ain't the sword that Shrain had in Fear the Walking Dead. I don't know if the timelines would work, but you know, Shrain had that one sword, a historical sword as well too. But I do think the comparison of the two is because Shrain in Fear the Walking Dead, played by the amazing Coleman Domingo, he had an appreciation for history as well too. So understanding that these relics are meanings of not just importance, but I think they do fuel a mentality for some of these folks to want to lead. So this sword, I guarantee, will play a part by the end of this season, one way or another. And if it's Bill's demise with it, then so be it. But that sword will be a factor, because there's no way you introduce a character, because weapons are characters in the Walking Dead, that it won't play a part at some point. But yeah, here's the interesting thing about this, because I'm like, oh boy, let me hear what he got to say about Okafor that we know is BS. He is speaking so like he's the most noble man he's ever met. Speaking about him just with such honor. Let's not forget that he was just suspicious of him.
Yep.
Just an episode ago. So you got to keep your eyes on Bill, because he is a tricky person right now. He even, you know, he had his choice of words with Rick about not trusting him and blah 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 blah. Oh, you're not sure about him, shall I say? But yeah, you gotta just keep a close eye for him, because this whole speech at this funeral was, so bologna is like trash. I don't eat bologna, but like, you know what's worse than bologna? When you pronounce bologna exactly how it's spelled. Bologna. Yeah, just terrible. Just terrible. And that's what Bill is right now. So keep your antennas up for this guy. But immediately after that, he says, listen to Rick. He said, I wasn't sure about Okafor. I'm not sure about you. Here's a book. And then he needs to speak to Thorne, who eventually gets a promotion, because she immediately comes back and says she's Commander Sergeant Major Thorne now. She has the echelon briefing. And now we know that there's a major meeting of all of the CRM leadership, which means that some of the folks that we may have been looking for coming back from World Beyond should be making an appearance. It may also be indicating, I mean, we do know where Jada's rank is now by the end of this episode, but we will have to kind of see that hierarchy put into play, and kind of see where everyone's positioned. I'm also a little bit interested. Might we see somebody else from the past somehow, some way, be sitting in some level of leadership here that we didn't know about? So that meetup, that meeting, or that whatever they call it, whenever that happens, that's going to be interesting. To throw it to you, we got a lot right here. Just, I don't know how much runtime this was. The summit's the word that's coming, but we got a lot right here. Where's your antennas kind of flickering? What were you sort of thinking, knowing all these things were kind of happening? Also, too, for one moment to be suspicious of Rick, immediately promotes Thorne right in front of his face. And they did join at the same time.
Yeah. I thought that was a power move, honestly, because Thorne could have been promoted behind closed doors, which I already know that is how everything in this world works. Everything happens behind closed doors. You know, it's a huge thing in the first and second episodes. Secrets, you know, knowing all the secrets, the higher up the secrets, the echelon secrets, whatever. So I do think that, you know, letting that be known, especially when the two of them are standing there and the general is like, yeah, I still don't know. So don't give me your compliments yet. I do think was a power move, especially because Jadis did let Grimes in on the fact that his plan that mirrored her plan in the beginning could very easily be toppled over with just access to this one single file that she has on everything. So I don't really know how exactly that will come into play, but that was 100% a power move. Also, you know, like I said, these past 2 episodes, this guy is just giving me insane war crime energy. So I know everything is like a chess move with him, and this certainly felt like one.
Yeah, Terry does a really good job in as an actor, obviously, but I also think that the almost lack of emotion, that at no point have I been able to understood or connect with this character in the sense of knowing what his true intentions are. Just a big question mark. Like, I have no clue, but I agree, reeks war crimes, but I can't tell if he's just a by the book Old Testament leader, or is he some sneaky weasel that's using pawns around him to actually figure out everybody's motivation that's beneath him, his inferiors, you know? Did he promote Thorne in order to figure out what's up with Rick? Is Thorne just, you know, dispensable to him to figure out Rick, the real threat, you know? Then when we know about, like, you know, Rick eventually getting ready to be promoted, did he then now decide that Michonne is the bigger interest, or is he ready to use Rick for Michonne and vice versa? Like, it's hard to tell what this guy's up to right now.
It's I'm more than positive it's the sneaky weasel answer. 1000%.
Yeah. So after that though, Rick is so goes back to the room. Thorne did let him know that Michonne was asked about by Bill, so she's on the radar. So he said you got to make sure no one you have to make sure that she does not pull nobody down. This is the liability factor of, because Thorne vouched for her, they saying that you got to make sure that she does not become a problem. That makes it a problem for me. So, you know, keep her what it is. And then they had that little awkward moment of no salute. Thought they were buddies, but looks like she's power hungry already.
Yeah, she's really about her business, and I like that for her as a character. Yeah, but you already know it's going to be a pain in Rick's ass.
1000%. So Rick then goes back to the room, or she exits the room, looks over the plan, noting the bombings that's happening, setting up a timeline, and then lets Michonne know tonight's the night after they exchanged a note. And he lays out the plan in a very sweet gesture. He did not leave her chocolate. He left her The only thing that matters most to her, outside of her kids and Rick, is her katana. So she gets her sword. You know, it's cute that in terms of how they strategize together, that he gives her sword, gives her the plan, the map, and so on, so she can meet at the whatever the rendezvous point is. But also, she sort of smiles because she sees all those walkers, and then they're bandaged up or bonded up so that they couldn't escape. And she kind of looks like, that's classic Rick, making it easy for me. Don't have to fight through a jungle. He's that good. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
she has a little. I think she has a moment of just kind of reminiscing, or maybe a little bit of nostalgia for her. Like, man, this is how we used to do shit back in the day. And I'm sure you diehard Walking Dead fans out there, I'm sure you all gonna be like, you remember what episode he did that on? If you do, just let us know in the comments, because it's not. I'm sure he probably has. It's just not clicking off the top exactly when. But I think it has to be a cool callback of some sorts there for her to kind of look at that and it's kind of like, that's my boy. I expect him to look out in a way like that, you know?
Looking out for me. Because, you know, she's more than happy and capable to do it herself. And also, like, he knows that because he knows her. So he knows that it's nothing. It's no problem. But they both know that him going out of his way to make sure that she has, like, the easiest route possible, that's a gesture of love, man. That's love. He really feels for her. And I'm like, oh, look at her, like, smiling because these zombies are, like, all tucked away, all nice. I did get a little throwback. I don't know how intentional it was, because it wasn't as intentional as the others that I caught in the first episode. But the turnstile. And I really love that scene with that one zombie who's pressed against the two sides of the turnstile, and his body's just decomposed enough where it could just slide around on through the rib cage. I thought that was really fire. And now I'm thinking about Noah caught in the revolving door, because there's that good maybe like 3 to 5 seconds you can see the zombies coming out one at a time because they're all pushing against the revolving turnstile at the same time. And I thought to myself, oh, Noah.
Yeah.
For nothing, bro.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I'm about to come back to you in 1 second here. So she gets to the point. Rick, you know, obviously Rick looking at the walker, kind of submerged in this swamp or whatnot, but he had a plan. But she gets there, no Rick, boat, note, supplies, and we hear her reading the note saying, "I'm not coming." Did you think that he had this set up for her the entire time?
Yeah,
that he was never going to join you. So you never thought he was going to join her here?
I didn't think that he was going to join. Although this wasn't the point where I took back my trust of him quite yet. I'm still good at this point. I'm still good. I'm still like, you know what? She just doesn't know. And he's on the inside and he's thinking logically, especially now that we have like a little spider web going on of secrets between him and Jadis, him and Thorne, and you know what Jadis and Thorne don't know about each other. So we have a little bit of a complicated web, and it could snap very easily, again, knowing that there's this file that exists. And I think that was a pretty like rational and hard decision to have to make. You know, I hate to be like the cliche person that's like, if you love something, let it go. But he's right. Like, they're not going to stop looking for them if they do leave. And that's not really as much about her as it is about him. But now, as someone who has authority, he can be that person to protect her if she decides to leave. So no way in my mind I thought that she was going to leave, because I know that she's too freaking hard-headed. But I still have my trust of him at this point.
I'm going right to the next scene here, because this is where I really had my laugh with the episode. So he immediately goes to Jadis and says, listen, she's gone without me, and I can't kill you because we need you in terms of the success of humanity and so on. So I think that's a really important aspect to understand, that like Rick does value life, you know, and much as he probably wants to get rid of Jadis, he understands like you could be a positive contribution going forward. But listen, he had a plan. He lays it all out, very transparent to Jadis about what happened. Jadis is going to find her chances to take her shots. Jadis says, and I have to paraphrase here, but Jadis basically thinks that Rick did all this for a chance of them being together. He's like, so did you like? So wait a minute. Was it really about her, or was it something here that made you do so?
Like, be for real. Be for real.
The flirting is just funny, but he says, listen, man, with all this, you could be a hero with a shit haircut. And
that was wild, mind you. That line was kind of insane. And honestly, like, I like Jadis's haircut. It's like, it's giving queer badass. And like,
yeah,
I kind of like that, but like, okay, take your shot.
Yeah.
He couldn't think of a shot that was as powerful as hers. So he had to say, yeah, and your haircut sucks.
The fact that Jadis is in like La La Love Land here is just kind of like, you did all this for me? Oh man. But anyway, Rick goes back to Thorne now, and Thorne, I had to watch this part a couple of times because Thorne's South African accent here really was strong. So I wanted to make sure I understood this exactly correct. And she says, you're in trouble now. And I was like, what is she talking about? And the camera looks over and I bust out laughing saying, what the fuck? Because I bought into Michonne leaving. But I had no clue Michonne was just going to go back into the same old script of things. But in fact, now she's turned up. Now she's juiced up, and everybody is watching Michonne go off. And by no means, in the A to B meter, she ain't no B plus, she ain't no A negative or A. She's like an A plus right now, because she is like, and everybody stopped what they were doing to watch her. So everyone's bearing witness to greatness, and Thorne knows it's a problem because she is now creating attention. She doesn't look like a B. That's not a good look. And Michonne kind of looks over and kind of like, let's try this again now. We're not gonna try to play me, all right? or if not, then I would just make more problems for all of us, And rather, including my husband. I don't know if that's spite or if that's just her way of saying I want to go about it my plan. I don't know. But what did you think about her?
I would like to say that's a bit of both. Like, selfishly, I want to believe, because I get that way with my partner too. Don't play in my face. Don't try to play like Mr. Captain Save-A-Ho. It's like don't patronize me, please. Please don't patronize me. You try to make me look like a fool, and you want to be Mr. Hero. So I'm gonna show you how it really is, and I'm gonna stand here with all my weight on one hip and look at you like this because you really thought that was gonna work out for you.
Yep. And I don't know how you want to classify this, but Rick using the lines like, listen, if you love me, you would go. And Michonne looks at him like, yeah, okay. But I mean, she does have this moment now kind of focusing on Michonne where she says like, she had someone tell her that you would know when to go. And I had my chance, but I couldn't go without him, as she's talking to Judith. And this is obviously the conversation she had with Nat. Nat was wanting to make sure that that it's him. But then she says she did have her hesitations in terms of, did all of this consume him and everything that we have is gone or so on. But then when she goes through Millennial Park, so now she's going through his steps or whatnot, she did find an artist that drew the picture. And now this is an emotional moment because she's putting all the dots together in terms of what did Rick do when he wasn't actively working. He went there religiously, got these paintings of them because he wanted to remember them. He also brought up Carl. Still doesn't know about RJ. And then there was like good exchange of like positive reinforcement, but yet affirmation about getting back to your loved ones. And it was cute. And not only that, it was inspirational. And then Michonne was able to kind of tap into those same moments, being on the receiving end. And now she has the motivation to now look for him. And as the artist says, you have to believe a little longer. So, with all the action, with all the love story stuff, and obviously being blanketed with the backdrop of the zombie apocalypse, I still like that the writing still is very intentional about just like this level of humanity that we want to see more of. Like, not so quick to throw something away that's cherishable, or the resilience through dark times. Like they continue to give like hope in all of this. And then I get it. We want Rick and Michonne to be together and get back to the kids and have that moment. But I also think there's a lot that like a regular viewer can look into this and kind of imply it to your own life and saying like, whatever that goal, hobby, whatever it was that you was ready to give up on, maybe not yet. Maybe look for the reminders around you in the world to have you continue to chase in what's important to you. And that's kind of like what I've been enjoying about this in these first 3 episodes, is that they continue to throw very intentional writing in there. This character, it wasn't just like hey, he's the character that draws. Here's your draws. I know who you are. You know who I am. Bye. They made it worth something, So I appreciate that. I definitely do. Going forward, we do have the Thorne, Michonne, and Rick conversation in the secret Okafor spot, and Thorne is there not only to interrogate, but this also gives off a level of recruitment and intimidation, if you ask me to.
Yeah.
So they make it very clear about, Rick and his helplessness. So she's telling her story. She's also throwing some shade. Then Thorne makes it very clear that you're here because of me. Thorne pulling the knife, Rick pulling his gun. I will also just kind of jump ahead to say that Thorne was aware that Rick pulled his gun behind her. That was an interesting little tidbit, because I didn't realize that she did initially. But this was nothing about this was nothing but, I think, recruitment, intimidation, and even the rolling of the eyes to Rick, because Michonne also was flexing too. Like, I was under no circumstance here worried about this chick. She could have been trying to pull her knife all she wanted. It would have been the end for her, and I understand what she was trying to do. So I had to play the game. Don't have me out here looking stupid again, Rick, because I will clap you aside your head, boy, if you have me out here playing with this girl.
She was in her bag.
About this?
She was in her bag at this moment. I was honestly eating this up, because now she's back. She very clearly is not going to go with the plan that Rick tried to finesse her into. So now she's like, okay, well, I'm really here. And she's really playing into this whole B person, plan that they initially had. And as, Thorne is trying to kind of bait her into saying something that would leave Thorne to believe that she could potentially down the line crack and mess up, and then ruin this chain of hierarchy that Rick has built, where, he can protect Michonne because Thorne is here, and, so on and so forth, with Jadis like higher up the line. And Michonne is just so good. She just been around the block so many times. She's not cracking. And it was giving me life, honestly, because she was looking at her in her eyes. And it's another thing, because she's feeding her the answers that she knows that Thorne needs to hear in order to, guarantee her safety, at least for the end of the night, or until I get back to my dorm or whatever. But again, we're getting that side eye, and we're getting the eyebrow, raised into the hairline. Like, I know and I see exactly what you're trying to bait me into doing. And he already told you, I got this. I'm playing the part. Don't try to get it twisted. So I'm like, okay, she's in her bag. Also proving to Rick, it's, still a little F you over here, which I love, which I really love. And then, went about her business, gave her that little gave Rick the little on the way out. And she won that battle. It was kind of like standoffy. It was like little, Western standoff. And she obliterated that one.
I want to believe in the Thorne. I want to believe in Thorne. I want to see more of this character and whatnot. But like at this point now, she played herself. All this that she was trying to do to Michonne did nothing but intimidate herself. And she mentioned, I'm not Okafor. Rick had to kind of put a battery in her back, like, hey, you did good, but clearly she didn't, because she panicked right afterwards, like, oh my God, like, she's tough, what do I do?
Now
you know what I mean? So now what? But she ultimately, Michonne as a consignee is now part of a clearing operation. So going forward, we know they get on the ground to get to the location where they're going to be at. They're a few days from the CRN summit, and Thorne talks about her philosophy wanting to lead from the ground up, so she'll be running point for all of this and whatnot. But then instantly going forward, we go forward in terms of seeing the clearing operation, why they did it. I mean, Thorne already explained all that and whatnot. But this is interesting because she told Michonne to stick back. I mean, this is definitely a power move too. I can do it when she really couldn't. She didn't have to go like that, but she talked about not protocol. I see both sides to this. You don't want to deviate from the plan because somebody could get hurt or killed or whatever it may be. But Thorne, you could not go through with the mission. You got to call an audible as a leader. Every sport or anything that's team building or whatnot, if it ain't working, the leader has to make the adjustment when needed for the success of whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. She couldn't get that thing out the mud. Michonne, on the other hand, was just kind of like, oh, this poor girl. All right, let me do this real quick. So all that happens. I got to say the line of the entire episode was Rick saying, let's go, when he pulled up next to her, pushing this little barricade thing, the bomb thing. That gave me the chills because the two of them together on screen is always going to make me pop. But like Rick saying, let's go, in his true Rick Grimes voice, was like, hell yeah. But with all that happening, they clear the bomb. They run off holding hands. That was the funniest part of this episode too. They was like, yay, we did it. Yay. Let's go behind this tree and kill. Like I remember when I was in middle school acting up.
It's the same thing. It's the same.
Yeah, I know what you're doing there.
Yeah,
Spider-Man.
I've been there.
Yeah. But Thorne, hating. I can't speak much louder in his mic than that. Hating. Because of all of that, they fight their way back. Michonne is in pure Super Saiyan A grade right now, letting these walkers have it. And my girl Thorne is just blown.
Threatened. She is so threatened.
And she puts the gun on her. She puts her in the crosshairs, and Rick picks up on it, steps in front of her, and lets them know, as Rick also flexing too, because Rick, it's the one thing about the two of them. They got a plan. One person could be the muscle. They can switch these dynamics at any point. Mm-hmm. Rick, with his situational awareness, picked up on it very quickly, got in front of it, and then made Thorne audible the whole thing. Just kind of go forward with all of that. Thorne completely is pissed off about it, says he don't want to see her no more, send her back, blah, blah, blah. Don't let me see the consignee no more. That's it for her, da, 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 da. You need to take care of this, and so on. The matter of fact, let me just wrap up everything in the episode, then I'll just give you all to give you assessment of these last few things, besides the very, very last thing. So, with that being happened and whatnot, obviously Michonne wanted to leave off, but Rick said this is not the time, we can't do it yet, etc., etc., etc. So Thorne letting her know after that, saying like, you gotta take care of this. Major General Bill wants to brief you. You're moving up. Jadis is now headquarters there. She says there's no more trips between there and Philly. Do you want to come take a look at my quarters? I mean, at this point now, she's just gonna have to she's gonna have to throw the drawers at my man. She's just gonna have to be like, here you go. I wore these for you specially today because this is the fourth time she done thrown it out. Do you want to come? I'm permanently going to be here now as headquarters. So do you want to, you want to come?
Girl, Michonne is gonna come and kill her. She's gonna kill her. She's
the fans are gonna go crazy for this too. I'm with you on that. But then she says, "Oh, she hasn't seen me yet." Oh, there she is.
I love that. That was so great. That was great.
But then this is where Rick said, "Listen, I belong here. You don't. It's over. Everything we have is broken." I mean, this was definitely extreme.
This is the part. This is the part. Mm-hmm.
So giving it to you, not that we leave the helicopter thing for the last thoughts here. We see that now Thorne is intimidated. Thorne has definitely power struggle, intimidation. She wants to be done with Michonne in her peripheral. She wants her away. Now Jadis is going to be closer to everything. Michonne is aware that Jadis is there. Jadis is still going to keep throwing the draws at Rick. Rick completely, and I don't know. You tell me, what was the emotion why he came off the way he did to Michonne? Because I don't know. I just have it in my notes is he was very extreme for this.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts about all of the things in that last 10 to 15 moments, 15 minutes of the part of the episode?
At this point, I'm just like, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen right now. There is a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Every single stove is on. It's getting hotter and hotter and hotter. Nobody is happy. Like literally nobody, except for Michonne, who's like kind of in her bag right now, and I totally get it. But everyone else has got something to worry about.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is threatening for everybody who is involved. And so the whole concept of just kind of sneaking away under the radar, or, you know, going through with our plan secretly and silently is just kind of like out the window at this point. Like now, because everyone is so aware and everyone has their like personal emotions involved for whatever reason that might be, whatever we do, it's going to end up being loud. And that's definitely not what we want in this type of situation. And I still do think that Rick is in some level still committed to this. I do think so. I mean, he can't 100% let go of his past. I know that. But I still think a little bit of a part of him has been groomed and been conditioned. So when he sees, you know, the threat of, you know, this small militant society that they're part of, he's kind of like, oh shit, you know, I thought I was just kind of like, scoot this over here. I was going to dip. We have our cover up set. We're all going to be good. There's no way that's happening now. I don't want to topple this whole thing because, you know, at the end of the day, he still knows, because he told it to Okafor before the helicopter went down, that, you know, or actually, no, maybe he wrote it in his last letter to Michonne. I'm not quite sure. But, you know, let me stick here and hope that this does something good for, you know, the sake of humanity. And that's also why he's not going to kill Jadis either, because, you know, he's got his personal whatever with her, but, you know, she still is a powerful figure and she still might be able to do something and help something for the greater picture.
Yeah, listen, he dignifies her and it's a wrap.
Yeah, it's a fucking wrap. So I still think, like, at the end of the day, Rick is a hero and he does want to like save people. Plus he's been conditioned with this mindset, like, for the greater good, you know, like for the system, this is the way that we have to do things, and clearly that it's working. So I think he just went 110% on this one. And I don't, you know, part of me is like, okay, he really loves her and he wants her to survive. That's why he made up this whole plan the first time for her to get away on the canoe.
Yeah.
I still want to believe that that's the reason why he's pushing her away. But I also think there was some truth in what he was saying about, I belong here, you don't belong here. You know, everything that we had, forget about it. Like, it's done, it's over. I do feel like there was truth in that, because at this point there is way more stability in where he is right now than the dream of them just being able to quietly sneak out and cause like very minimal damage. So.
Yeah. Agreed. We're gonna see. I mean, the last thing on this episode is, as we talked about, man, they on this helicopter after an argument. They looking kind of like salty at one another. But as she said to Judith in a more of a declaration of uncertainty, she says, listen, I don't know if we're going to be back. And they jump out of the helicopter and that's a wrap. Well, listen, the fact that we know we got more episodes, we know that's not it. I know what happened on Fear the Walking Dead in the very beginning of people in helicopters and whatnot. But also they came back too. Except for the dad. But yeah, nonetheless, who knows what's to come? Where did they jump out at is the question. Will they be followed is another question. But nonetheless, that'll do it for this episode. Come back next week. We got more of The Walking Dead, the ones who live, conversation, reaction, all that good stuff for you. But until then, Y'all get in the comments. Let us know your thoughts about this episode. Y'all stay safe. We'll see you back next week.